to Puppy Chow. This is your first lab in pastry chef, and the objective of this lab is to get you acquainted with our culinary kitchen. Depending on where you hit culinary basics, this might be a new room and it might not be, but we want to make sure that you understand that this lab is just to get you acquainted with the kitchen and back into the lab before we start our safety and sanitation unit. In addition, Puppy Chow is the best-selling recipe that we have for Javicino. So when I'm making the Puppy Chow, I will talk about it from both perspectives. The individual lab will be doing right now, and then when you do it for Javicino. All right, so let's get started. I have already washed my hands and I have cleaned my table, and now I'm ready for lab, right? And if I was working with someone else, I would divide the work during planning time, and one of us would either gather all of our ingredients, and then the other person will set up the equipment, all right? So when you set up the equipment, you're gonna need your bin, and I just pulled from my bin a rubber scraper and measuring cups, but you can have your entire bin by you. And then you're gonna need what's called an induction burner, which I'll show you how to use. It's an electric form of heat. And then you're gonna need a medium-sized saucepan, which is located pretty much all together. There's usually a wall of pans and whatnot, pots and pans, okay? So when you use this, you're gonna plug in right here, all right? And then you're gonna turn this on, okay? Let me just... So most of the induction burners work the same. You're going to go to cooking temperature and you're going to turn it on medium heat, okay? So the first thing you're going to put in, and on this one, I'm going to go about 400, and I can always increase it. If you start all the way up at the highest temperature, you're literally just going to burn your food, and then you're going to have to start over. It's going to smell, and it's not going to be fun, all right? So the first thing you're going to do is you're using butter, and you're using a 1/4 cup of butter, which is equivalent to a half of a stick. So if there's a stick up front, or at the demo table, you are going to cut it in half. If it's pre-cut for you, then you're just going to use that portion, 1/4 cup. All right? To that, you are going to melt that. So I'm using my rubber scraper and I'm just kind of stirring it around. While I'm doing this, my partner is going to start over here. Okay? And they're going to grab a sheet pan and line it with parchment paper, all right? You're going to use 7 cups of Chex, and you are going to lay it out on your sheet pan, okay? The sheet pans, as well as the parchment paper that you're going to use, is going to be located on a baker's rack for you to use and grab, all right? The reason why we do this is because you don't want to break up those Chex. This is a very small amount. If you were doing this for Javicino, you would have a huge bag of Chex that you would lay the whole amount out, and you would be melting much more butter, all right? So as you can see, I'm multitasking. It's starting to melt. At this point, I'm gonna use my peanut butter. Now, I've already pre-measured my peanut butter, so I'm gonna kind of squeeze it out. You're gonna obviously not be pre-measuring. You're gonna need 3/4 cup of peanut butter. So if you look at your measuring cups, you have 4 in your bin, or you should have 4 in your bin. And you have to think of, how do I do 3/4 cup? Because I have 1 cup, I have a half, a third, and a 1/4, all right? I don't have 3/4 cup, so I kind of have to think this math through. So the easiest form is going to be a half cup and a 1/4 cup. Put those together and you get 3/4 cup. You don't have a half cup, you could also do the 1/4 cup 3 times, which also equals 3/4 cup. This is just the half and the 1/4 is the most efficient, okay? So I've already measured that and put it into here. And now I'm going to squeeze my peanut butter into my butter, okay? Now, if you don't have butter, you can also, if you were gonna do this at home, you can also substitute margarine. It's gonna literally be the same. Margarine's just a little bit cheaper. Okay, just like so. And I'm just gonna put this off to the side, or I'm gonna throw it in the garbage can, okay? Now I'm gonna start stirring this around, and we'll be right back. It starts coming together. Now I'm going to add my chocolate chips, all right? This should not be steaming. It should not be bubbling at this point at all. If it's bubbling, your heat is too high. So now I'm just going to melt this until all of my chocolate is liquefied, pourable, as well as my butter is melted. I will show you what it looks like when we come right back. As you can see, it's starting to get pretty pourable. I'm going to go around the side. See how I still have like chunks of peanut butter that are not melted in? You shouldn't see streaks. All right, I'm just going to melt this a little bit more. See how it's kind of thick and it's like it's gonna be globby when you pour it over your checks. So I wanna make sure it's just a little bit more melted. If you're unsure if it's at the right point, because this is your first lab, do not hesitate to ask your teacher if it's at the right point. All right. So as this is still kind of getting to the right point, I am going to put 2 cups of powdered sugar, which I've already done, into a baggie, all right? The objective is we're gonna take our chocolate, we're gonna pour it over top our checks, toss it around to make sure all these checks are covered. Then I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna put it in here and I'm gonna shake it so all the powdered sugar coats the checks without breaking these. That's the point, you don't wanna break them, all right? So to do that, I'm ready. This is all good to go, so I'm gonna turn this off. Okay, now be careful when you're using this. Because this was heating, this is hot, so be very careful. Also, this is not super hot around here, but I wouldn't touch it with my hand until it cools down. So I'm simply going to unplug it, and I'm gonna set it off to the side, all right? I'm gonna get my hands ready. Clean as you go. One partner can be finishing this, and one partner could be starting cleanup. At no point should any partner just be watching their partner stir or toss. They should be working together, or one should be cleaning up, all right? I'm going to use gloves to do this process just to avoid getting chocolate all over my hands and any bacteria, crossover, cross-contamination, etc. Everything you learn in culinary basics, okay? So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to pour my chocolate over all of those checks, okay? I'm just gonna go and get as much of that out as possible, okay? Now when you first touch this with your hands, it's probably gonna be hot. So be very cautious when you are doing that. You can wait for it to cool for a second, but you don't have that much time to actually wait, so because you have to clean up. So just be mindful of that, okay? Then I'm gonna take my hand and I'm going to start lightly tossing. Now if you touch it carefully and it's hot, then kind of give it a second. Don't start shouting, it's hot, I burned myself. Because I'm pre-telling you that it might be hot because you did just finish melting it. Now I'm going to go around just like this, lightly kind of tossing it around to get that chocolate coated. I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. And as you can see, all my checks is coated. My gloves got really nasty, so I took them off. So now I didn't want to waste a pair of gloves. So the purpose of this demo, I'm doing baggies. Don't do that, okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my fabulous baggie, all right? And I'm going to take a 1 cup or my liquid measuring cup, and I'm literally just going to use this to kind of transport my checks into the bag. If you do this with your hand, it's not that it's not going to work. It will work. This is just a little bit more efficient. And if I grabbed my liquid measuring cup, I could do it even faster. Now, when you're doing this for Javicino, you will have multiple baggies that you will divide the checks into to get it evenly coated with the powdered sugar. You'll probably end up with about 5 baggies full because you're going to have about 7 cups of checks in each bag. Okay? I will be right back to show you what this looks like in 1 second. All right, so we are back. So as you can see, your powdered sugar is on the bottom and this is all here. We got to shake it. All of this should start getting clean. Now, when you do this, I know you probably know that you need to close this, but often we have students that will just start shaking and then the checks go everywhere and then we have a big mess. Okay, and then you just wasted your time. So make sure you take the air out as well as seal it as best as you can. Okay, just like so. Then you're going to start shaking it. Okay, make sure it's closed and you're going to shake, shake, shake. The recipe only calls for 2 cups of powdered sugar. Now, as you're going through this, it gets a little bit brown tinge color because it's supposed to be powdery white. You can always add in more powdered sugar. Your teacher planned for that, so there should be plenty. Now, as you can see, a couple of my checks fell on the floor. That was wrong of me. So what you would do if that happened is you would pick this up and then you would throw it in the garbage can. If you leave it on the ground, then we're going to get friends, and that's not what we want. Okay? So I'm going to keep shaking, and I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. Back, and as you can see, the checks has been mixed. Okay? I have a couple chunks in there, so I would probably add just a little bit more powdered sugar and shake it a little bit more, but for the purpose of this demo, you get the idea. This is like a perfect piece, all right? So for you guys in lab today, you're gonna divide it into 2 small baggies, all right? And you're gonna share it with you and your partner, right? If we we were doing this for Javicino, we would take this out and we would actually package it in 1.5 increments, and we would do a Javicino bag, and we would use colored ribbon, etc. All right, so enjoy your first lab. Thank you.